This whole presentation today is kind of based on, in fact it is based on my actual time with Howard Thurman. I was fortunate to get one of the last classes he taught before he made his transition. And I spent 6 days with him, not just me, it was a class of 50 of us. And he came to the Pacific School of Religion where I was enrolled, thinking I was going to get a Master's of Divinity. But it was just so much religion, I didn't know why I didn't want to stay there. And after he introduced me to mysticism and what that was all about, I said, oh, I want more spirituality, more mysticism, not so much religion. And so he altered my life in that way. So this is really about his perspective on our deepest values, our highest values, his teachings, and his experience with the subject. I'm basically translating what I got from that course, which made a profound impact on my life. And this was in the summer of 1978, in a course he titled Mysticism and Social Change. And he basically was the first person that explained mysticism in a concrete way. I heard the term, but if someone said explain it, or I couldn't give it a definition. So this is the first time I really got introduced to it. His presence just spoke of greatness to me. I had, prior to meeting him, just completed my course in psychic development, so I was kind of used to reading people's auras and picking up on energy. And here comes this guy, kind of a short guy, and who spoke really slow and used silence in incredible ways. He'd say something, and he'd pause, and you'd be thinking, what's coming next, what's coming next? And he would speak. Always he spoke in that kind of really using silence a lot. But his presence, what I ended up seeing was just being near him. It's almost like an energy flowed off, emanated from him. But his aura was gold, and he had a lot of white light around him. That was my personal experience. And after this course, I pretty much dropped out of the School of Religion and began to study more mystical subjects like dream work and stuff. In fact, he had us write a paper of anything that was important to you. And I wrote a paper on my dreams and probably given him about 15 of my dreams all sprawled out. I typed them up all neat. And he wrote a long letter back. He said, God's working on you. I can't tell you what he's saying. He said, if we're not around another 10 years, I'd like to see where you're at. But anyway, that was the situation there. Now, he helped to make mysticism itself a valid academic discipline. According to him, he was the first person in the country to actually get an advanced degree, a graduate degree in mysticism. Before, people would study it, pick up on various mystics, but they didn't have a degree that you could get in religion called mysticism. So he helped to define it by insisting that this is what he wanted to study. Kind of like there's a guy named Jeffrey Mishlove who introduced parapsychology through a book called Roots of Consciousness. He insisted on getting a degree in the scientific study of psychic phenomena, while Howard Thurman insisted on getting a graduate degree in mysticism. And since then, more and more people have done that. Even the Holmes Institute, we don't call it mysticism, but it's a mysticism degree. And basically, he always liked to kind of, I won't say he always liked to, but I took a course from, and some of you may have, you certainly have, a course Reverend Jones taught called Mysticism, Practical Mysticism. The design of the program is a little bit like that. Study mystics from this area, from that area, all these different mystics and what their contribution is to the nature of the universe. That's kind of what he did in explaining mysticism. And I just thought it reminded me of Reverend Jones' course, except it was more advanced and more detailed. And he always talked about the difference between mystics and scientists, especially physicists, and how they, no matter what they end up researching, they come to the same conclusions. The mystic looks within, contemplates the inner world, and interprets their understanding of reality based on what they see within. Scientists look at the world outside, look at the stars, look at the planets, look at the environment, and they come to a conclusion of the nature of the universe. When they're done, they both say exactly the same thing. They just come about it in a different way. So that's kind of interesting. He had incredible intuition. I never heard him use the term intuition or psychic reading or anything like that. But my observation is that he had a high intuition, placed a high value on it. And I first noticed this when he came to class, probably the second class meeting. He'd sit on this table, and he'd do a sacred reading on any number of topics that he had. And at one point he came in, sat on his table, looked at the class after a sacred reading, and he said, there's an evil influence in this room. It's rubbing up against me, and we need to take a break, clear the air. And he got up from his table and walked out. We wrote for about 10 minutes, he came back in, that feels better. And later I asked him, just a private time, on another break, and a couple of days later, what was going on with that? He said, someone in this class had a lot of negativity and a lot of skepticism about what I was saying, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to leave, but I didn't want to call them out. And so that's a value. If someone's not listening to you, one high value is to call them out to someone. He did it in kind of a nice way. Someone's rubbing up against me with this negative energy, and let's take a break. But he just said he wanted to give them a chance to leave the class. I never found out who the person was, but usually if you're giving a talk, the message you give partly is based on how the audience receives it. If you're giving a message and everybody's frowning or squirming in their chairs and scratching their head and going to sleep, it's going to be hard to give a presentation. You cannot do it. But he sort of, it was kind of interesting. Because it kind of shocked the class when he said that. Now, he would say something that became obvious to me later, but at the time he was talking, I didn't really put it together. This is again on his intuition. He said, my roses on Sutter Street, that's where we live in San Francisco, my roses on Sutter Street grow a lot better than all the other roses on Sutter Street, because I talk to my roses. And I hadn't been looking at that much, but not long after that, I started reading a little bit of Reader's Digest and other places. Then I said, oh, that's right, you can do that. I just hadn't thought about that. But he was talking about that before I started reading about it and getting kind of tuned into it. Then he would say, if you're really still, and there's a difference between stillness and silence. He never explained it. But he says, when you're still, you can see what was going on this planet beneath your feet 2,000 years ago. I said, hey, where's this guy coming from? He says, you can know about the distant past, it's life beneath the ground you're standing on. You can understand all the animals and all the plants if you're still. And it's true, but I kind of wasn't thinking that way back then. But that's a value of intuition, a value of inner listening. He had a way of finding a person's value, what they valued in life, I think, through posing questions without giving an answer. He just put out a question, and I'll give examples of two of these questions. One is, and I've probably said this a question like this before in a previous talk going way back, and that is, where am I going, and who is going with me? Where am I going, and who is going with me? So this is probably the most important question you'll have to ask in your life, and that's going to tell you about your values. Where am I going, and who is going with me? And then secondly, if you have to choose between how I think and how I feel, how do you choose and why? And, it probably varies. Sometimes people go more with their thinking, sometimes more with their feeling. And he even had a comment about life and death. It's almost like, I'm not sure how the question phrased, but it was something like, how would it be to not ever die, to just live on and on and on? What would that be like? And most people almost smile. It'd be great. So if you couldn't die, what kind of life would it be if you couldn't die? If you couldn't let anything go, what would that be like? And you think about it more and you say, oh, that's true. I have to value both of them, life and death. He had a couple of ways of looking at values that we have that are unexpected. We don't know we have that value until we're put in a situation where it brings it out. So one of our highest values comes from unexpected experiences, and he had a couple of them he shared. One of them was he was observing a guy on a rainy day get struck by lightning, and the guy died. And for some reason, he felt powerful, an inner sense of power, divine justice. I was a little bit shocked. But then he went on to say, that same week, a little bit later, someone was being electrocuted in an electric chair, and he felt really awful and dirty and sick. So it's almost like death by electrocution by man is a sick feeling for him. But if someone's struck by lightning, that's divine justice. I just said, well, I guess that makes sense, you probably don't have the same feeling with someone being struck by lightning versus being electrocuted. It's interesting. Then he gave another story that brought out his value, and he didn't say what the answer was. I can only assume, or you can only assume it. And that is that he was visiting a friend, and the KKK was walking in the neighborhood, and his friend gave him a shotgun. He said, "Sit with me, Howard. Point your gun at the front door. If anyone comes, and we have to defend ourselves." And here he is. He's a mystic, sitting with a shotgun. He didn't know what to do. And the KKK didn't stop at the door. They just kept walking. But he was saying, "What would I do if they did come in?" And he didn't answer the question. But that brings out a value. What will you do in a case like that? You're not used to doing anything like that, but of course you don't want to die. So long way, shoot at the ceiling. What do you do? He just was put in a situation where it did bring back a sense of values. Now, on the subject of love, he talks about two sides of love. And one way he talked about it is to draw a big circle on the blackboard with a lot of little strands off the circle, almost like you might imagine the corona of the sun, or maybe a big jellyfish or something, all these little tentacles. And he said basically that there's two sides of love. If you're approaching God, that's one side of love. If you're moving away from God, that's love too, but it's another side of love. And there's many paths, many ways you can approach God, many ways you can move away from God. There's this unlimited number. But on the side of moving toward God, he said this is a side of love that's so soft and so gentle that we experience all the harsh lines just sort of wiped away. He said on this side of love, we're so happy that our weaknesses can't be found anywhere. And on this side of love, our limitations are blended with God's strength and we feel empowered. That's when we're moving toward God. When we're moving away from God, love has harsh judgments and of ourselves and other people seem to judge us in a hard way. On this side of love, we have negativity, we have bitterness, and we have hopelessness. It's still love. It's just that we're moving away from God and we experience it in a different way. And we have thoughts of that I'm just not good enough. That kind of thought comes from moving away from God, when you're feeling that you're not enough, or you're not worth this or worth that. Now, there's a value of getting beyond, this is part of the love thing too, of getting beyond emotional reactions and anxieties to situations. It's kind of interesting because there's a therapy, this therapy is fairly new, not too long ago invented, and it's called dialectical behavioral therapy. What he did in his talk about this, not about the subject by name, is that what he said is that our emotional anxieties cause us to look for quick and temporary solutions to problems, but have little effect on the situation. In other words, people get upset and sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction. What a tragedy. Why did this happen? What a shame. Something ought to be done about this. And he said our perceived slights and our perceived wrongdoings and bad habits can sometimes be a substitute for logical thinking and just planning out what to do. As some people say, it's like Michael Beckman says, when you see bad news on TV or you hear bad news, it's like a prayer request. You shouldn't just get all upset about it. You should pray for it, become centered to help the problem, not just sort of get agitated and anxious about it and not really get a solution. So he said what the solution is when you have these knee-jerk emotions and knee-jerk anxieties is to find something bigger than yourself, something beyond the artificial quick fix to increase your welfare and well-being. Once you find that will increase your welfare and well-being. To get beyond knee-jerk emotional anxieties, we need to develop a larger view of inner guidance and a larger view of religious faith. And that's exactly the nature of this therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy. Discovered by psychologists, and what it is it's geared toward people that are pessimistic and negative thinkers. And what the whole therapy is to how to, when negative thoughts come up, how to slow it down and say, is there another possibility? Is there another solution? To force yourself to do that over and over, to look for other solutions. And ultimately, they don't talk about looking toward God, but the whole nature of it is that, is to bring balance into your life by thinking of a larger outcome, thinking of larger possibilities, basically thinking of a positive possibility to the negative knee-jerk reaction that you're having. Okay, so I have one more thing to share on this, and this is a thing about the highest value in relationship, the highest value in relationship. And what he says is that being silent together is the key to knowing another person. Sitting and being silent together. Not just being together. In fact, he says we don't know each other because we have not dared to be silent together. And somehow when you're silent together, things happen. You pick up on images and symbols and the person's actual soul and vice versa. And that's what he called real connection. He said people are not silent because they don't trust it and they fear the silence. So that's why they're together, but they're not really silent together, listening to the other person. To be silent is to go into one's inner life to reveal their symbols and to make things clear, and symbols do not betray. So it's almost like if you go within and you just trust what you're picking up on, you won't be betrayed. It's kind of like an intuitive reading in some way. He didn't use that word. And finally, he said, in the silence, sounds are made, but you don't hear them. But there are sounds. Words are heard, but you don't necessarily hear the words being articulated. And here is where you receive value and meaning from your relationships. So hopefully this talk gives you some idea about our highest values through his lens, because this course is really, this week is sort of about the Inward Journey. His book is an incredible book. It's got, I don't know how many little small segments, kind of like Living the Science of Mind, but they're just little short vignettes. And this whole presentation, as I said, is really from my actual experience with him. So hopefully there has been some information here on how to look at your highest values, our highest values. Now with that, I'm going to invite you to go within for a moment of benediction, but not benediction, a moment of truth. So if you would put your attention on that quiet place. And simply know with me that right where you are is the presence of the one and only creator of this universe, the one and only sustainer of the universe, the one and only life that we all share, that life in which we all live, move, and have our being.